morning. This is a Radulich broadcasting presentation of the Metal Hammer of Doom review, Cannibal Corpse, a Skeletal Domain. I am your host, a mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. Joining me shortly, joining me longly, joining me someday will probably be Robert Cooper. Not with me right this second. It's a mystery, folks. He could call in right now. He could call in an hour. By then, the show will be over. Want to know why? Here's why. We planned to do this show tonight, but I told him it was a hard break at 11:30, possibly even sooner, depending on how fast I can get through this album, because in a little bit, my wife and I will be taking a long weekend. We're going to Tennessee, Nashville. So it's our anniversary trip. We were married. We were married in 2009 in October 3rd, and we decided that this year, to celebrate our 5-year anniversary, we were going to drive to Nashville, Tennessee for beer, barbecue, and country music. So I'm in hurry up and get the show over with mode. But that doesn't mean the quality will suffer. Nope, we are going to talk about this album. We are going to play some tracks. We're going to do it right, do it Radulich and broadcasting style-y. So as I said at the top here, and Robert Cooper will be with us in about 10 minutes, we are talking about the godfathers of death metal, American-style death metal, Cannibal Corpse. They've been around forever. This is their 13th studio album, Skeletal Domain. It was released September 16th, and because it's Brocktober, Brock Lesnar. Because it's October, this being the Halloween season, decided to focus on stuff that would, lend itself towards the Halloween season. Ghosts and Goblins. I'm not going to do the song again. Ghosts and Goblins, scary things, whatever. Figured what better way to celebrate the month of Halloween, All Hallows Eve, with the latest from death metal pioneers, Cannibal Corpse. So that's what's on the agenda for tonight. We're going to play all the tracks here, a little bit of each one from Cannibal Corpse, a Skeletal Domain, which came out this past September. And I hope you will enjoy it. Robert Cooper will be back with us in just a few minutes. In the meantime, since I got a car ride to catch, not a plane to catch, I got a car ride to catch, Tennessee. We're going to go ahead and start playing some of these tracks right now, and Robert will just have to play catch-up. So here we go. This is the first track off of a Skeletal Domain. This is High Velocity Impact Splatter. So, if you've heard one Cannibal Corpse album, you get a sense of what this band is all about. You know, it's the Cookie Monster vocals, blast beats. Earlier iterations of Cannibal Corpse albums actually used to irritate me. I'll tell you why. I like some differentiation in the music, and early Cannibal Corpse just used to be that same thing. Chris Barnes, the original singer of Cannibal Corpse, he's now in 6 Feet Under. I don't know who he was replaced by, but presently in the band is George Corpse Grinder Fisher. But either way, when the original singer was in the band, he never really changed his vocal tone. It was more than Cookie Monster. It was just, he would just go, "Arr!" You know, that was supposed to be a sentence. This is what gave rise to the Fra Diavolo project, or at least, you know, the formation of it never really got off the ground. But I think I've told the story on the air before, where my friends and I wanted to form a death metal band called Fra Diavolo, and we were going to just read the ingredients out of a cookbook for various recipes, and that was sort of our way of saying it doesn't seem to matter what these people are saying; they're so unintelligible that you can be saying anything, and it really doesn't matter. What I like about A Skeletal Domain and this first track is at least there's some changes in the music. Excuse me. There's changes in the tempo. There's enough differentiation in the track to keep it interesting. There's still that level. I mean, you can somewhat make out, maybe not on Block Talk Radio, but you can somewhat make out a little bit of what he's saying, and at least that keeps my ears perked up. But I'll tell you this much, and then we'll go on to the next track here. One of the things I do like about Cannibal Corpse, even if you can't understand a lick of what they're saying, they are quite the experience live. This is one of those deals where they're so brutal and they're so violent sounding without not the kind of like five-finger death punch Slipknot violence. I mean, this is just that, hard to put into words here, but I have been in mosh pits where bands like Cannibal Corpse and Cannibal Corpse itself played, and people just beat the living shit out of each other, because that's what that kind of music does, and it's great. Speaking of great, this is track 2. This is Sadistic Embodiment. Not much differentiation there. That's your typical Cannibal Corpse song these days. A bit of a melody, though not much of one. I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. It sounded like Cannibal Corpse. I mean, here's the one thing about this band that you can always bet on. If you're going to put down your money, and why would you? Just get a Spotify account. But if you're going to buy an album, and you're going to buy a Cannibal Corpse album, you will always get what you paid for. You will never, they're not experimenting with different sounds, this band. When you get a Cannibal Corpse album, you can pretty much bet you're going to get something in the vein of what you got in the previous albums. And that track is a really good example of how Cannibal Corpse stays within a certain milieu, certain parameters. So that's what that was. This is track 3. And like I said, it's sort of an abbreviated show tonight as I get ready for my road trip to Tennessee. So we're going to go merrily right along here. This is track 3, Cannibal Corpse, Kill or Become. So here's what someone in the band says about this album. Bassist Alex Webster said, "I think it's turning out to be a kind of dark sounding album," which, it's a death metal album. So of course it should be a kind of dark and eerie sounding anyway. But I think this one a little more than normal. That was kind of the direction the songwriting went in. And here are some of the ratings. All About Rock gave it, looks like 9.5 stars, just about. All Music gave it 3.5. Metal Sucks gave it 3 stars. And Sputnik Music gave it 4 stars. And I pretty much agree with that. We're going to listen to more of it, and I'll give a formal review at the end. But I would agree that for what it is, you can't really judge it against like a Judas Priest or Metallica or something like that. You have to judge it within its own category. And as far as death metal goes, they achieved a death metal record with this one. They did a good job of making a death metal record. And that's really the only fair way to judge it. Writing for All About the Rock, former Internal Bleeding frontman Frank Riddy said about a Skeletal Domain, "This new release sees Cannibal Corpse bringing forth more blast beats, but also incorporating some truly dark guitar melodies, making this a sinister sounding and evil album in parts." I would agree. I think that goes back to what I was saying before about when you hear something like this live, it gets the mosh pit going, it gets people all riled up and ready to smash into one another. I think that's absolutely true. This next one is track 4. This is the title track to this album, this dark and sinister album. This is a Skeletal Domain. get a really great example there of the eerie type of guitars that they were talking about in their review. I absolutely got that sense with that song. Okay, I'm going to move along here. Robert Cooper should be with us any time now, but Metal Hammer of Doom waits for no man, so we're going to go right ahead here and move on to track 5. This is Headlong into Carnage. So, let's quick time out here. This week was not a great week for me. This was definitely one of those weeks where I don't want to hear, when I get out of work, I don't want to hear the sound of another human voice. I don't want to listen to anything. There are times where things can get so bad for me that I just will drive home in silence, such is my desire not to hear another human voice. I don't even want to listen to music. But in preparation for this podcast and listening to this album, I did spend some time listening to it, even though I was not in the greatest of moods for most of this week so far. And I'll tell you, one of the things that helps when I'm kind of in a pissy mood and things are not going well is hearing really brutal, angry, hostile death metal music. And I'll tell you, this album couldn't have come at a better time. A song like that one, Headlong into Carnage. You know, it's a violent sounding song, you know, very up tempo, upbeat, I turn up the volume as I drive down the road, and it's one of those where, you know, I start bouncing around in the car listening to it, kind of forget why I'm so annoyed in the first place with things that I'm not going to talk about tonight. But suffice it to say, this album helped me get through the week, and songs like that one especially so. I'm going to move on to track 6 here. This is the Murderer's Pact, and a quick thing about this one. The Murderer's Pact was actually streamed on loudwire.com September 8th. So, you know, it's interesting because bands are using the internet in a lot of different ways to promote their albums. A lot of streaming going on, and this was an example of it. You can find, you know, bands streaming their albums before their official release date, so you can kind of get an idea of whether or not you want to go out and buy it or whatever. Still don't know why people buy albums when you have a service like Spotify out there, but there are some, like Metal Hammer of Doom co-host Robert Cooper, who like to physically own the media. So, I guess that's where it all comes together. But yes, the Murderer's Pact was one of those tracks that they streamed on the internet, loudwire.com, in addition to releasing traditional singles as you would. So once again, this is track 6. This is The Murderer's Pact. That was The Murderer's Pact, and we are finally joined by the man himself, Mr. Robert Cooper. How do you do, sir?
I'm live and on the clock at Lowe's. I mean, we're just finishing. So I was like, I told him like 10 minutes, like 20 minutes ago. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I thought it was going to be.
Sir.
It just turned out to be one of those nights. And why is it? It's always the nights where we have a podcast. I'm telling you.
That's all right. We may not be doing this very much longer, so that's cool.
You sound like you're about dead.
No, I'm good, man. I got some news today. I can't really get into it now, but depending on there's some stuff coming down the pike that's going to rock the foundation of the Radulich Broadcasting Network. And it may mean that I may have to walk away for another extended, unexplained period. But I won't know until next week. So let's get this in while we can, because this may be one of the last ones.
Well, at least one of the last ones with yourself, because I mean I can run it. It just has to be later. Hello.
What was that?
Sorry, no, there was talking. I said, I was saying, I'm like, well, I mean, I can run it. It just has to be later, but it would be a whole lot less cool, and there will be a whole lot less old people.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that offline. I mean, we may still be able to do this if it's later. Like I said, though, I can't get into it now. I still have unanswered questions, but in the meantime, we are doing a podcast here. It is about the new Cannibal Corpse album, A Skeletal Domain. We are up to track 7. So track 1 through 6, Robert. Yeah, I've just been going, dude. I ain't playing around, man.
God.
Going here.
God, he's all the way up to track 7 in 20 minutes. There's 12. Yeah, see, I listened to this album like 3 times, but actually 4 times today. But the funny thing was that, the album does kind of blend together a little. Wouldn't you say?
That's part of what I've been talking a little bit that I've talked about the album in between tracks. One of the things I said was, I mean, that's kind of my problem with Cannibal Corpse is that, especially in the earlier stuff in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Early Cannibal Corpse is not my thing. I'm not a big grind guy.
Yeah. It just, the too many of the songs ran together. There wasn't enough differentiation for really keep me interested. This album, though, I think there's enough to keep it interesting where they all don't sound sound exactly the same. But I think, what are you saying for you? There's not enough. It's still kind of the same track one after another.
Well, I think my problem is the problem I have with a lot of albums of this sort. Like, if I'm not sitting down listening to it and looking at the track listing, it does blend together, but it's still a really good album. Like, I mean, when we get to the later tracks, I'll probably have more to say, because I feel like this is actually the opposite of what we usually get. You know how we usually get, like, a lot of front-loaded albums? I think this album is actually more back-loaded to a degree. I mean, there's still great songs in the front, but there's some really, really good songs at the end.
Okay.
But the first, the first 6 songs, they were good. There was definitely the first 2 songs that let out was track 2 and 3, Killer Become, and I forget what the other one. The Killer Become was awesome because I got to scream things about chainsaws. That's always good. I mean, hey, and the best thing about this album is that the Lows got to listen to it in the back. I had thrown it on with my Kindle and just decided to plug up some speakers we had in the back. And I'm like, it sounded like an enraged dog was back there. Really, Cannibal Corpse sounds like an angry dog.
I think the more popular way of describing their sound is Cookie Monster.
Yeah, the Cookie Monster, or as George Fisher's nicknamed, Corpse Grinder. Maybe he could be the Cookie Grind. He could be the Cookie Grinder.
Okay.
But all right, yeah. Next song, I guess.
So let's get into the better half of the album, per Robert Cooper, of the Lowe's Hand Craftsman and Illegal Immigrant Transportation Society. Gonna beat that joke. This is track 7, Funeral Cremation. All right, Robert Cooper, what did you think of that one? Give it to me.
I liked it. Actually, when I was listening to it in the car, because that's when I was listening to it the first time, I was like, did I download the wrong song? Shut up. I was like, did I download the wrong song, and this is the first one again? Because, that kind of quiet, I didn't expect that to be in 2 tracks. Because I'll give Cannibal Corpse one thing. They've been doing a pretty good job of kind of realizing what makes a lot of horror good. since, you know, a lot of times they say their music is very much like a horror movie. Like, they're getting a lot better at building up to those, you know, quote-unquote scares and not being straight balls to the wall the whole time. And I think it does them a lot of good. I was really just surprised that we had something like this on 2 tracks, but this is a pretty good song. I liked it. It was enjoyable.
I mentioned this earlier. The bassist was talking about how they really went out of their way to make this as dark and creepy as possible. And I think they in a large part they achieved that. You know, you bring up the word horror. It's the one word I missed when I opened the podcast tonight. You know, I was talking about how you know, we're celebrating Halloween all month long here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, and what better way to do that than review the new Cannibal Corpse, because they are quite good at incorporating elements of horror in their music. I think if you look at the earlier stuff, it was more they just went for gore. You know, it's just gross. Whereas their later stuff has a more traditional horror vibe to it, and it isn't just gross out for gross out's sake.
Yeah, and I almost wish I would have gotten off at the time we should have gotten off at instead of fucking 15, 20 minutes late. But anyways, if I would have gotten off at the time we should have, I was gonna be at home and I was gonna be sitting in front of the lyrics to these songs, because I feel like Cannibal Corpse doesn't really get their due in terms of lyrics sometimes. Like, yeah, usually it's something kind of dumb. But if they're wanting to make a horror movie, I've always wanted to just see how good they are at crafting that, you know. Because a lot of these songs, you can tell what the name is, because Corpse Grinder is, he is hearable. Like, you can pick out what he's saying.
Yeah, I said that before. I said it's an improvement over Chris Barnes' thing. As much as I like Chris Barnes in his iteration 16 Under, I didn't like him in Cannibal Corpse because it was just, you know, it was just one long line of growling, unintelligible growling. Corpse Grinder is a little bit more intelligible. Like, I get that there's words coming out of his mouth. He isn't just growling into the microphone.
Yeah, he enunciates like him, like Johan Haig from Avon and Mars does a good job of doing that. Like, they enunciate, so it's just not like it sounds like they're talking just like with a lozenge. They need lots and lots of lozenges. Like if Christian Bale's Batman ever fronted a band, there we go.
Have you ever seen it's been floating around recently, somebody posted on my Facebook page, speaking of Batman, they did like a Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, I posted it on your Facebook, and you're the second one. Like, it's funny because they're using that Death Clock song, and it's great. Like, I love to randomly, like, I don't even have to watch it anymore to laugh. I just think back to it, and I'm like, it's just so great. I fucking adore this. Because it almost reminds me of that, it reminds me of that parody Batman that we get on College Humor. No, yeah, I think it's College Humor. The Batman one where he's a complete and total idiot. Have you seen those?
No.
One, like, there was a recent one, like, it's like Batman meets Superman, and he's like, you've got an S on your chest, you know, so that we can remember who you are. And he's like, on my planet it stands for hope. He goes, hope starts with an H, stupid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. And there's one where he's got a birthday clown instead of the Joker in the interrogation room. And, yeah, it's great. Well, here's Dent. I don't know who Dent is. I think he broke my balloon tying hand. Like, I'll have to send it to you afterwards. It's a probably good little 30 minutes worth of, like, maybe 10 to 12 shorts over the past few years. It's funny.
I'll have to give that, have some downtime, I'll have to give that a look-see. All right, speaking of brutality in music, this track 8, is entitled Ice Pick Lobotomy.
Oh!
Okay, I just picked Lobotomy. What do you think?
Well, actually, I was going to talk about things that weren't the song, because, that's what we do here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. We don't talk about things that are the topic. But as for the song, it was good. I really liked the intro. This album has a lot of really good intros. Like, it actually sounds bad, because you remember the Children of Bodom review, unfortunately. Like, this kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, this reminds me of that, to where this would be done really well as a 400-word write-up, because you can really encompass a lot of the thoughts about this album in, maybe the span of 2 or 3 songs. Because, when we get towards the end, I'll talk about more things like solos, but there's a lot that's really done well in this album. It's kind of like they do the same stuff well, and a lot of them. The intros are typically really good. There's catchy hooks in them, no pun intended. And, there's typically a very creepy, like, gnarly atmosphere with singing, growling about things that you don't want ever done to you ever. Ever. But actually what I was going to get into was, because I did miss the beginning where we talked about what do we think of this band. And funny thing, when I first got into metal, I didn't really I loved the core bands. Like, the Killswitch Engage was like the greatest band ever, and it will always be the greatest band ever. At least that's what I thought. I still love them. They're one of the only bands that I loved back then that I really, really enjoy still. But I saw one girl wearing a Cannibal Corpse shirt, and I'm like, oh, I've heard of them. I'll give them a listen. So just randomly, I stumbled upon them on, like, the Liquid Metal Sirius channel that used to be on DirecTV. That channel's not that great. But anyways, and it was like Hammer Smash Face, and I didn't like it at all. I was like, this sucks. This is bullshit. And still, like, I really like Hammer Smash Face now, but I feel like older Cannibal Corpse is more of a... It's one of those tests of endurance things. Like I said, I'm not big into grind. So, like, there's some great songs. And, like, sometimes, like, the last Napalm Death album was really good because it wasn't really, really grindy. But, like, old Cannibal Corpse was not really my thing. So, I just kind of put them off to the burner, and I'm like, whatever. I ain't probably going to listen to them again. So, lo and behold, Headbangers Ball was on. Hey, do you remember the old revival of Headbangers Ball on MTV2? No. Yeah, you see, the reason why nobody will remember it is because they had it at 2 a.m. on technically Sunday morning. Yeah, it was, actually, it used to be from 11 p.m. to like 4 a.m. on Saturday into Sunday. And it slowly kept being pushed back until it was like 2 a.m. And then they moved it on Tuesday, like mornings, like 3 a.m. Pretty much they were just trying to bury the shit out of it, and they succeeded. But in the ton of deathcore and Whitechapel and stuff like that, the Whitechapel's okay. I had finally heard the Cannibal Corpse, and I was like, whoa, I'm really digging this. And it was Evisceration Plague. Like, that song is so good. That's still one of my favorites. And it actually kind of got me to sit down and get into the band more. And that's kind of where I'm at now, to where I really enjoy them. Because, like, Evisceration Plague had a really kind of dreary, doomy atmosphere with a nice, like, headbangable riff to it. Really catchy, bless you. Really catchy, like, little hook that it had going there. And it was, like, had really, like, kind of memorable lyrics. And the video was awesome, too. Do you ever see the video for Evisceration Plague?
No.
It like, had them... And actually, the funny thing was, Corpse Grinder was wearing a Death Clock shirt. But they had them. It was like in a cabin and like some snowy woods, and it had this guy running away from something. And throughout the video, he's slowly turning into like this like flesh craving monster. Like it's almost like a zombie. It's almost like a zombie, but not quite. Like he pretty much is just like a more cognitively working zombie. So yeah, it was a really good video. Like it was well paced for a music video, and it had a cool special effect. You know, it was enjoyable. So like that's how kind of where I got to now, because like the last time they had Torture was really good. Like it blew me away because there were a lot of really slow songs, and you know when you think Cannibal Corpse, you don't think slower songs. Like there was
I can't imagine
real.
good. I mean, I know you like Doom, and I guess that's what it would sound like, but still, I just can't wrap my head around a slow Cannibal Corpse being worth listening to.
You don't like slow Cannibal Corpse? Or do you not listen to their last few? Or have you not listened to their last few ones?
No, I've listened to every Cannibal Corpse album that's come out. I tell you a whole lot about them, but I've listened to them. I know they exist.
Yeah, I am. I know I'm like pretty much the Wizard of Doom here. Actually, that'd be a really fucking good nickname, wouldn't it? I like it.
The Wizard of Doom?
Yeah, the Wizard of Doom. I like it. It's so fucking cheesy. What?
I think we may have to work on that, making that your permanent name.
Okay. Like anywhere. Like I walk in for a job, they're like, your name is Robert Cooper? I'm like, no, I am the Wizard of Doom. I like pull out
if you say it like that, well, no, hang on. If you say it like that, you sound like a huge you sound like just a big homo.
I am the homo of Doom.
Just be normal. Anywho.
How does one be the Wizard of Doom and just be normal?
There's a new Weezer out.
That's true.
Robert's like, and I'm done.
I'm like, okay, yeah, you have a point.
You're correct, sir. You're absolutely right. There's a new Weezer out. And what? All right.
What does that have to do with Doom? Am I doomed to hear it?
Speaking of track 9, this is Vector of Cruelty. Respect. Walk. What do you say? I think what can I feel? Everything manipulation, involvement to my will. Deterioration, murderous ways, propensity for violence, no remorse or shame, layers of fascination, dispatching thunderstruck, like a fortress, bleeding fulfillment, no joy will ever live. A solid rock among you, could feel my mistake. Slowly realizing you, flashing when you turn, the pleasure of closing, deny your soul, to live your kingdom, striving. Your little movement, no mercy to give. I think domination, a master of pain. This measure of closing, emotion of cold. The human connection, weakening. Collaborative willful, isolated wrong. It's not the center that I made this choice. So, completely off topic, I'm almost 40 years old, but every time I see, like, a new Little People set that's for something that already exists, you know, like a product line that already exists. Like, for example, Little People does DC superheroes. Anytime I see something like that, or they've got this new line of Disney Little People out, where it's like one of the traditional Little People, and then there's Mickey Mouse as a Little People, I get very excited. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to buy these for my kids who, you know, like Lily would care because she's been playing with Little People now since, you know, she was like 1. But Jonas isn't going to give a shit at this point. He's 6 months old. But, like, I act like, oh, my God, Jonas has to have this. I just found another Little People from this particular set, and this one is Tinkerbell. And I'm like, oh, my God, Lily, who will be 4 in January, has to have this new Little People version of Tinkerbell. This is what I go through, Robert Cooper. This is what it means to me to be a father, looking for toys for my children that they don't care about.
Well, I mean, I look for toys for me that I care about. So, is Little People like Weeble Wobbles or something?
No, Little People, they're just these like little, they're non-posable action figures. They're kind of like little statuettes, and they're kind of squat. Some of them will play music if you put them on a particular set. Some of them come with cars. Some of them come with pets. One of them has a pet chicken. Okay. So that's Little People. We got, initially we got Lily into the Little People because we got her the princess set. You know, like there's the DC superhero set, which literally I have bought like every boy I've ever met. Any one of my friends that has a baby boy, I got them the DC superhero set. So would you like to hear another song?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm about to call in through through my Skype because I'm hearing my echo so bad it's pissing me off. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
You go call in another for the last 10 minutes of the show. Call in from Skype, and I'm going to go ahead and play track 10, Bloodstained Cement. You still appear to be on your phone.
What? Oh yeah, I am. I'm trying to figure out how to call in.
Okay.
Such a pain in the ass.
Dude, we're almost done. Are you sure?
I mean, okay. I mean, yeah, it's not a problem then.
All right, so
we'll continue. We got like 15 minutes or so. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So that being said, that was Bloodstained Cement. What do you think of that one?
It reminded me of American History X. Which, by the way, on the on one of the gaming podcasts this week, I compared the breaking. I made a joke comparing the breaking of the glass at a Jewish wedding to the curb stomping in American History X.
That's okay. I don't know if you ever listened to the WrestleCast, but they've been doing a bit now for what seems like fucking forever, where Gavin is convinced that Dean Ambrose was murdered via curb stomp.
Yeah, I've been meaning to listen to that. Is it uploaded on the Radulich page anymore? I haven't seen it much.
No. What ended up happening there was I used to upload the stuff, but Blog Talk Radio has become increasingly difficult to deal with, and I'm starting to wonder whether or not I want to continue to bother to use the service anymore. But I don't know what else to replace it with, so I'm kind of stuck until I figure something else out. But regardless, I used to go ahead and just put everything up that I could find, and then they started restricting, only 100 megabytes per podcast.
Oh, I know. I've got a 3-hour podcast sitting on my hard drive that I keep trying to cut in half. And I'm like, where's the good point?
So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. Yeah. So I just kind of threw my hands up and said, well, I guess I just won't do it then.
Oh, fuck it. Yeah, it's such a pain in the ass. I've been able to get most of them under that, but we did a 3-hour podcast, and there's no way to fit that under 100 megs.
Right,
and not get it recorded. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're doing that, but fuck, whatever. I'm just kind of over Blog Talk Radio. That being said, this is our second to last track here as we start to wind down the podcast. This is much like how I feel Blog Talk Radio treating its consumers. Asphyxiate to resuscitate. I agree with you that I thought the second half of the album was pretty groovy versus the first half. But this is also. But I also agree this is starting to run into the same issue that we ran into with Children of Bodom, where I'm just running out of things to say about it.
So I just looked up the lyrics since I'm on my computer. Wow. I was like, yeah, I've always wondered, you remember when we did Amon and Mars, and I was like, these guys are really do their lyrics very well, and they tell a really nice story. Yeah. Cannibal Corpse, it's pretty much been it's always been the same, killing for years. You died, I brought you back. While you see the dark, I see the light, a light so dark controlling me, altering who I'm supposed to be. And then it goes through, all these, things, choking and staring, asphyxiate, all these things. And then it just kind of repeats the same thing towards the end. I was like, Yeah, I was like, all right, that's cool. Well, yeah, this song actually had some pretty wicked solos in it. This whole album had some really wicked solos in it. I love a good solo.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And maybe that was the problem with Dragon Force 2 weeks ago. They actually kind of cut back on their weedle. That was sad.
Yeah, the new Dragon Force was definitely less gimmicky than normal.
Yeah, though it did have a Castlevania theme song, so I immediately loved that. Has anybody ever listened to that show?
I went back and listened to it. I wanted to see how things turned out, since I had to jump off of it real quick. You guys did a really good job. Robert always does a good job. Robert, I don't like to drag him in too much, but whenever I've really needed him and he's stepped up, he's done a great job for me. But yeah, the new Dragon Force was actually closer to like a real album and not just trying to be like a gimmick band or a gimmick album.
Yeah, it's very ironic because I was like, I always have bitched if they feel like a gimmick band, but now that they're not doing their gimmick, I'm kind of disappointed. It's like, if The Rock showed up like tomorrow and tried to just do black boots, black tights and no gimmick, like I would be really disappointed. Like, instead of like, because, some people are like, oh, The Rock, he's just this, and this. He's not really as good as people say. Some people say that about Dragon Force, but it's like, oh, shit, they kind of aren't doing themselves anymore.
So did I tell you why I couldn't be on the show 2 weeks ago? Did I tell you what happened? Yeah, my cousin's apartment got infested with lice, and she unknowingly gave it to my daughter.
Wonderful.
So we had to shut the whole fucking house down and deal with that. We're good now. Things are fine. The lice is gone. We washed everything in the house and treated my daughter's hair twice, and all that. So we're not, no problems there. But so it's a fun night momentarily, let me tell you. All right. With that said, this is our last track here, and we're going to start to get out of here. This is Hallowed Bodies. So overall, what would you give this album?
Well, actually, that last song, it was a lot more lyrically complex. It was about killing people, but there were a lot more lyrics about killing people. Though the end was awesome, just blew my pants away awesome. I loved it. I went back and listened to the song just to hear the end a few more times. Like it's just like a guitar, more stuff, and then another solo. It's like bonus solo. Yeah. Oh, it got me excited.
Yeah, I definitely like the rhythm of that one.
Oh, yeah, it was really, really good. Thoughts about the album, overall rating? I'd give it a really strong, maybe like 8. I'd give it a solid, by 8.5 out of 10. Like, it's a really, really good album. It's got a lot of different things to do stylistically. Now, sadly, this is Cannibal Corpse, so you're not getting a Blind Guardian concept album here. It's like a Dream Theater album. You're not getting anything that's really necessarily... But you're getting something that's well-crafted, it's well done, it's entertaining, it's exactly what you're hoping for, and probably a little more, in my opinion. I really do enjoy it. I'm going to listen to it a few more times. I don't know if it's going to get as many spins as Baby Metal. I've been preaching that album to everybody. I'm like, guys, come on, listen to it. It's so good. It's so much fun. I'm like, nothing says metal like Teenage Girls. that always gets me.
Yeah, I don't see it doing as well as the Baby Metal review. But yeah, I would give this definitely an 8 out of 10. You know, I said this earlier in the podcast. I said, you know, if you're looking for a death metal album, that is what they accomplished. They did it. They absolutely did an awesome death metal album. I mean, and really, what more can you say? Like, you know, if you go out to buy a death metal album, you know, Cannibal Corpse, you're getting you're getting what you paid for. You know, you're not going to open it up, listen to it, and be like, hey, they really experimented with a different sound here. Yeah, that never happens.
Yeah, it really rarely does. And the cool thing with Cannibal Corpse is they've done really well on the charts. So that's awesome. I think the only death metal band that's done better is probably Amon Amarth. Yeah, I think so, because Amon Amarth was like close to. They were actually doing really good for last year's album, which is surprising because you know death metal's one of those things that usually is not very in with the kids, and if it is, typically they quickly switch to their little core bands. God, I hate core bands. Ugh. I've got a lot of pent up rage about that. Just one day, it's gonna like fucking blow. Fucking, I hate those bands. But yeah, like I'm happy that this band's doing well. Like even if their tour, I could have seen them live earlier in the year, and I forgot that the band tour was around, and I actually had that night off. But the only problem was they were playing with Suicide Silence. I don't know if you've ever listened to Suicide Silence, but I heard them live, and they made me angry because they sucked.
Okay.
Like they were really, like they were really loud. Like I know I sound like an old man, but they were like incredibly loud, really awful, and then they wouldn't stop playing. Like it's still my favorite thing. You guys want to hear 4 more songs? My friend goes, no. He's like, all right, we got 4 more songs. God damn it! Like I said, half the crowd heard him and just busted out laughing because that was the one band that like none of us could stand. Oh, it was so bad. So it sucks. Like it seems Cannibal Corpse.
I've heard Suicide Silence before, but I don't think I was ever like a huge fan of them.
Yeah, I don't really like them very much. Like, yeah, and then when the singer died, everybody treats kind of acts like he was the greatest thing known to man. You know how it is when people die. They kind of put you on a little pedestal. They put you on a pedestal, even if you were drunk in broad daylight, fucking riding your motorcycle after your wife, the fucking mother of your child, begged you not to do it, and then wrecking and then hitting somebody's truck with your motorcycle. Way to go, douche.
Okay. All right, what do you got to plug?
Oh, plugs. There's, of course, this podcast. Whole Rattler Broadcasting Network's pretty great. You've got From the Cheap Seats. I'm not really on there anymore. I think that they got it without me. And, yeah, I'm really busy a lot. But, they're great. Jason Teasley, Jesse Starcher, love those guys. They're awesome. They're my people. And I guess besides this podcast, which we could have Orange Goblin up next. Fuck yeah. Fucking love Orange Goblin. Oh, yeah. There's the Sentai Rider podcast. You should have at least 3 episodes coming out in the next span of a week because, like I said earlier, I've got a 2-part episode coming out since I can't put 3 hours on Blog Talk. If I did, I'd have to down convert the audio to sound like it came out of a trash can. And it's not like I have the best audio anyways. Yeah, I'm not like fucking studio quality. No, I'm asshole sitting at his laptop quality. So yeah, it's going to be pretty great. We're talking the finale of Kamen Rider Gaim. It's going to be great. And then the next episode we're actually going to be recording after this, is the first 2 episodes of Kamen Rider Drive. And we're going to have Dan Stokely Rants' very own Nick Cochran. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a fun time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sentai Rider Podcast. That's SENTAIRIDER podcast. Email us at SentaiRiderPodcast@gmail.com. Just look on this feed. You'll usually find us. We're on like the iTunes and the Stitcher. And do we have a Stitcher?
Yes.
There you go.
We absolutely are on Stitcher.
So you'll find us on iTunes and Stitcher, which actually my buddy Hunter, who's my co-host for that podcast, he goes, yeah, I downloaded the metal podcast on, I think it was like Stitcher, and he's like, and it kept downloading all these other podcasts I didn't want to hear. He's like, I don't care about MMA. So yeah, but, I mean, that's
you listen to everything and you like it.
Actually, that's what I did for a really long time, but now I have a job and can't listen. Well, actually, I started listening to podcasts in the truck. So for like 3 hours, I'll just be blasting podcasts out of the truck. It's great. It's a fun time.
Excellent.
As I help the illegals over the border, of course. But yeah, that's it for those. There's one more, the Cooperative Multiplayer Podcast, which is on Spreaker.com. I want to say it's on the co-op multi-page. It's myself, Daniel Anderson, and Sean Garmer every Sunday night at midnight. And this week we had Jeremy Thomas and Stephen Randall. So the original 5, we're back, and it's great. Fucking loved it. Great. Yeah, I compared Jewish weddings to, racist neo-Nazi curb stomping scenes. We didn't talk. I actually talked more about video games than anybody else, which is the opposite of whatever happens. Like, I never talk about video games except for this week. So there you go. If you want to hear me talk about Final Fantasy, bam.
All right. As Robert indicated, in 2 weeks we will be doing the new Orange Goblin. Opposite that, Gavin Napier will be on next week on the Long Road to Ruin. We'll be discussing the Mummy trilogy. That'll be fun. So we got a lot of stuff in the works here. It's kind of, just like I said at the top of the show, it was not a great week for me this week, so I was kind of off. But we got a full slate of programs coming up. Next Saturday night, October 25th, you'll be able to find on YouTube our live alternative commentary for the next UFC event, Aldo versus Mendez 2. So look for that. Just keep checking out the Radulich and Broadcasting Network on Stitcher and iTunes, and of course right here on blogtalkradio.com. And if you have any thoughts about the show, you want to write me, I am Mark Radulich on Twitter, MarkRedulich. With that said, I want to thank Robert for finally getting out of the truck and joining me here. You certainly make the show better. All right, there we go. All right, so for the Wizard of Doom, Robert Cooper, I am the mandated reporter. Be well, be safe, and behave.